The wrench slipped from my hand the moment I recognized the family photo sitting on the kitchen counter. It had been 6 years since I had walked away from that last painful chapter of my life, promising myself I would never step inside that house again. Yet there I was, kneeling beneath a leaking sink in a quiet neighborhood outside Portland, Oregon, wondering why fate had brought me back. I had accepted what I thought was just another plumbing repair through a local community app, never expecting the address to belong to the younger sister of the woman who had once broken my heart. Then, after the water finally stopped dripping and I reached for my toolbox, she quietly told me not to rush away because she had been waiting for an excuse to ask me to stay. In that single moment, every carefully built wall around my heart felt weaker than the old copper pipe I had just repaired. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness can heal old wounds, that forgiveness is stronger than bitterness, and that life sometimes offers unexpected second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in hope, leave a thoughtful comment, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue bringing heartfelt stories that remind us the best chapters often come after the hardest ones. My name is Nathan, and after my engagement ended years earlier, I buried myself in work. I renovated homes across Oregon, fixed broken kitchens, repaired worn-out porches, and restored old buildings that everyone else had given up on. Fixing houses somehow felt easier than fixing people. Friends encouraged me to date again, but I always found another excuse. It wasn't that I hated my former fiancée, Rebecca. Time had softened that pain. What lingered was the fear of trusting someone enough to let them see the vulnerable parts of me again. Every repaired floorboard reminded me that damaged things could become beautiful, yet I somehow believed that lesson applied to everyone except myself. The woman who opened the door that afternoon was Rebecca's younger sister, Grace. Years had changed her in subtle ways. She carried herself with quiet confidence, yet there was still the gentle kindness I remembered from family gatherings long ago. She explained that the kitchen sink had been leaking for weeks, and while I worked beneath the cabinet, we spoke about ordinary things: the rainy weather, the old neighborhood, the bakery that had replaced the grocery store around the corner. Neither of us mentioned the past until the repair was finished. Then Grace gently admitted that she had recognized my name the moment I accepted the job request. She could have cancelled it, but she hadn't. She said she had hoped life might finally give both of us the conversation we had never had. She confessed that after Rebecca and I separated, she had often wanted to reach out but feared it would only reopen old wounds. Over the years she had watched both of us struggle in different ways. Rebecca had eventually married someone else and moved across the country, finding her own happiness, while Grace stayed behind to care for their aging father after their mother passed away. In those difficult years she learned how precious honest relationships really were. She told me that watching me quietly leave their lives without anger or revenge had taught her more about Grace than any sermon she had ever heard. Those words surprised me more than anything else that afternoon. As the rain tapped softly against the windows, we shared coffee around the same kitchen table where I once celebrated birthdays with their family. Instead of painful memories, I found myself noticing how peaceful everything felt. Grace wasn't trying to replace the past. She wasn't asking me to relive it either. She simply wanted to thank someone who had once shown kindness even while carrying heartbreak. That simple gratitude became the beginning of something neither of us expected. Over the following months, our paths crossed naturally. Sometimes I stopped by to help repair a fence or replace a broken light fixture. Other times she invited me to community charity events where volunteers restored homes for elderly neighbors. Working side by side, I saw a woman whose compassion reached everyone around her. She encouraged lonely seniors, organized food drives, and somehow remembered every volunteer's birthday. Slowly, the walls around my heart began to crumble. For the first time in years, laughter returned without effort. Still, fear remained my greatest obstacle. I worried that loving someone connected to my past would always carry complicated memories. Grace understood that without me ever saying it aloud. She never rushed me or demanded certainty. Instead, she showed up consistently, proving that trust is built through ordinary days rather than dramatic promises. I realized healing rarely arrives in one unforgettable moment. More often, it grows quietly through countless small acts of patience, honesty, and kindness. One autumn afternoon we returned to the same kitchen where everything had begun. The sink I repaired months earlier still worked perfectly, but it was no longer the most important thing I had fixed in that house. Looking around, I understood that life had brought me there for a reason far greater than plumbing. Sometimes the broken pipe isn't the real repair waiting to happen. Sometimes it is the heart carrying years of disappointment, simply waiting for someone willing to sit beside it without judgment. If this story has touched your heart or reminded you that hope can appear when we least expect it, please support the video by liking it, sharing it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribing so more people can discover stories that celebrate faith, healing, and second chances. Before this story comes to an end, I'd truly love to hear from you. Please leave a comment sharing whether you believe unexpected reunions can change someone's life, or if you've ever experienced a second chance that arrived when you had almost stopped believing in one. As I locked my toolbox for the evening and walked beside Grace toward the porch, I realized that forgiveness had never erased the past. It had simply made room for a future I never imagined possible. The leaking sink had been repaired in less than an hour, but the hope it quietly uncovered would last for the rest of our lives. Sometimes the greatest blessings don't arrive through carefully planned journeys. Sometimes they begin with an ordinary knock on a familiar door, a simple act of kindness, and the courage to stay just a little longer when your heart tells you it's finally safe to do so.